now. Literally, our IT guys to about 3 in the morning, and then they crash, and then they get back and keep going, trying to get the whole system rerouted. Because, like I said, it's a big system, folks. The IT guys tell us that we have files and a database as big or bigger than some Fortune 500 companies, because that's what happens when you have 36 years of programming. But we are going to make it. It is very expensive to fix this problem, but at least we're taking this company now out of the loop. So we're doing all the things we can do to try to make it such that we're not dependent on too many companies. So we keep building more systems in-house. We keep building our own software and systems and servers in-house so that we can be as independent as possible, so this kind of thing doesn't continue to happen. So anyway, thank you for all of you that are concerned, that are praying for us. I know a lot of you are talking about how you feel frustrated and how we must feel frustrated. And yes, we are. But, you know, at some level, you start getting used to this. It becomes just the way of life. What's the book of James says, that the trials and tribulations for a Christian are like sparks up from a fire. That's kind of the way it is. We also read that all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. And this is soft persecution. Well, I don't know about you, but last night, I was reading articles about more and more of the Christians being murdered, like in Nigeria. And I thought to myself, as I fell off to sleep, I have nothing to complain about. I have nothing to complain about in reality when you put it into the big picture. Christians are being raped and murdered for simply being Christians. Perhaps we, over the years, have been targeted for being Christians, but it's soft persecution. They would take our persecution over theirs. Many of them would be happy to swap that with us, right? Although I must say, the Bible talks about special crowns. One is a crown for the martyrs, those who are murdered. There's a special crown. So when we think that life is tough and we're under attack, we have to remember it really is pretty tame right now compared to what so many around the world are facing. People that have literally seen their daughters raped and murdered in front of them for refusing to convert to Islam, to say the Shahada. So I don't think we should spend too much time complaining about our little problems. They're nothing compared to what so many Christians around the world are facing. But yet at the same time, isn't this what the Bible says is going to happen? That in the last days, perilous times will come, that men will be lovers of self. And one of the things it says, they will be brutal. They will be brutal. I think we saw that on the streets of Seattle. Have you seen that story the last day or so? 75-year-old woman, there's a video on the street, and some violent thug with a long rap sheet, according to the press reports I've read, picks up a board and clobbers her in the head. Apparently it had a screw in that board. It hit her in the eye and put her eye out. You know, I mentioned yesterday, that I think our laws are really, in my opinion, written largely by criminals for criminals. I think that is fully on display right there. Most of our elected officials, I think Frederick Bastiat had it right. They are interested only in plunder for themselves, their special interests. And when you have criminals writing the laws that benefit criminals, I think that's a sign that Romans 1 is in full display. The 5 signs God's given over a country or a nation. One of them is that the people have leaders that know the righteous judgments of God, but encourage them to do that which is against God's character and nature. Darkened-hearted fools. Can you imagine your mother, your grandmother, beaten across the head with a piece of wood with a screw in it, putting out her eye? Why? Is it because she's simply white? I don't know. Is it because the person's deranged, strung out on drugs, psychological problems? I don't know. But should that person have even been on the street? According to the reports I've read, no, they should not have even been on the street. I don't want to see any civil unrest in America, but I think at some point, some family is going to lose a loved one, and it's going to be because of these kind of laws, quote laws, and you're going to start seeing an eye for an eye, literally, and a tooth for a tooth. Again, I'm not interested in seeing any violence, but there is a biblical system of weights and measures for repaying back in the area of justice what has been done with equal weights and measures. The Bible speaks against unjust weights and measures, which means there is a just weight and measure, right? If the Bible speaks against unjust weights and measures, doesn't that imply that there is such a thing as just weights and measures? Yeah. And at some point, American citizens, I don't know when, but at some point, I think American citizens are going to have had enough. Going to have had enough. And they're going to maybe do what's left for them according to our own organic documents. And that is alter or abolish the corrupt governments that are depriving them of their God-ordained right. We're going to be joined by Dr. A.D. Woods here in just a second. There's lots of articles up at worldviewreport.com. We were able to get that part of it up enough that I could put up some new articles today. You go over to worldviewreport.com, you'll see some of these new articles. Here's some good news. You're fired. Trans instructor booted for flunking college students' Bible-based essay on gender. It's another thing I was thinking about last night. Justice, injustice. How many of you see things that are not just, that are wrong, or horrifically wrong, where people are targeted simply because they're Christians? I've already made reference to it going on in parts of the world where they're being murdered for being Christians. In America, it's still, as I said, assault persecution, but where people are being targeted simply because they're Christians. And it seems as though there are people, whether it's in education, local governments, state government, that begin to target people simply because they're Christians. And when you see this, let me ask you this. How many of you find within you a righteous indignation rising up? I'm afraid a lot of Americans and even Christian Americans are becoming desensitized to this. There is a place for righteous indignation. I'm not talking about becoming bitter or sinning to a point, and anger a point to sin. But there is a righteous anger against injustice. But I'm starting to wonder if many within the modern church have been so diluted with a brand of Christianity that is anything but biblical that they don't even have a sense of righteous indignation anymore. To do such requires a judgment. To judge what is good, what is evil, what is right, what is wrong, what is the purpose and function of governments. Most Christians, sadly, can't even answer that question. We know the unsaved world can't, but when Christians can't even answer that question, we have a real problem. Yet we know God ordained government for the purpose of what? Rewarding the righteous, punishing the wicked. And when you see governments, local, state, federal, or you see institutions being utilized to persecute Christians, that should cause you to have a righteous indignation. No one likes a bully, do they? And yet, we're constantly now seeing people being bullied simply because they're Christians. And when a culture becomes readily accepting of this, it starts to escalate. Remember, marginalize, characterize, terrorize, and then legalize the terrorizing. But thankfully, finally, someone did something about it. And the University of Oklahoma, the transgender instructor has been fired after failing a conservative Christian student's essay about gender roles. Apparently, the school put out a statement. It's just one of many stories over there at worldviewreport.com today. See, what's another one or two? Let's see. Here's one. Going to make me go through picking all the sidewalks and stairs. Here we go. Wired, the website Wired. Americans are increasingly convinced that aliens have visited Earth. Polling shows that nearly half of Americans now believe aliens have visited this planet, and that the number who aren't sure has dropped by 2/3. The reason why, experts say, are complicated. Well, that right there goes with what we've been talking about for years, laying the foundation for spiritual deception. And I have to wonder, again, what is being done? I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe there's life on other planets. I believe in demonic entities. And I do think that as we approach the tribulation, during the tribulation, as described in the Bible, there's a lot of demonic activity on the planet. I wonder how many Americans and people around the world will think this is somehow extraterrestrials before they figure out it's demons. Or even maybe before the tribulation, what kind of massive spiritual deception is being set up? But the polls seem to show more and more Americans are willing to accept this idea that aliens have visited the Earth. Qatar-funded curriculum materials in New York City that's twisting the truth on 9/11. Article by my friend Robert Spencer. Qatar-funded curriculum materials in New York City that twist the truth of 9/11, letting the jihadis write the histories. Let's get to some of this and more, including I really want to talk to Dr. Woods about something that we kind of told you guys was coming based on a document I found. And that was simply, I put into a search engine, Gaza City as a 15-minute city, Gaza as a digital biometric government. Started using search terms, and then I stumbled on a PDF that literally was talking about that. All I did was just start search terms, thinking there's got to be a plan for this. And we found it. We showed it to you, 2 months ago? Well, now it's coming out. That's indeed what Kushner and Witkoff want. $112 billion proposal to put Gaza into a smart city. Dr. Woods next. Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Let's go right away to Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you. Good to be here.
You're going to be on tonight for a panel. We're going to do a prophecy panel with you, J.B. Hickson, Dr. Rob Lindstead, and Pastor Brandon Holthouse. Woo, that should be a big panel. So we'll look forward to that. All right. But I wanted to get you on here since this is our last, what's supposed to be our last broadcast for radio for 2025, unless there's major breaking news. We'll be back January 5th, Lord willing. But the plan is right now to take some time off. But again, we'll come back with breaking news. But I thought, let's go ahead and squeeze in Dr. Woods for one last Bible prophecy Middle East update. What do you make, first of all, Pastor, on my opening monologue? The the problem today, it just seems that we're living in a society in America where justice is really a thing of the past, that the criminals are getting away with it. In fact, many of the criminals have gone into writing the laws that seem to empower the criminals.
Well, I kind of look at all these headlines through a lens, and here's the lens I use. It's just the destruction of what I would call biblical anthropology, the doctrine of man, which is, of course, the idea that people, regardless of their beliefs in anything, everybody has value because they're all image bearers of God. And of course, we've taught evolution around the clock for decades now. So actually going back to Charles Darwin, Origin of the Species, 1859, which goes the opposite direction and teaches that we're just, evolved animals, accidents. And so we've lost the idea that people are made in God's image. So that accounts for the brutality, just the nastiness in people. I mean, you were talking about hitting an older woman, on the head with a piece of wood and a nail in it, takes her eye out. I mean, just the way we tweet against each other and speak evil against each other. We've had the Charlie Kirk, assassination. The right does it to the left does it to the right. And what we do is we dehumanize people that are inconvenient or that we disagree with. And this really is an anthropological issue. I mean, we've lost sight of the fact that, everybody deserves a certain level of respect and dignity because they're image bearers. And, we can disagree with people agreeably without going to the brutality. I heard you talk about brutality without going to the brutality, that's actually predicted one day would come in the last days. And I would say this is the reason God brought the flood. When you look at Genesis 6, verse 11 and verse 13, it talks about how there was violence that was spread throughout the earth. And interestingly, the Hebrew word for violence there is Hamas, of all names. And so that went on for 120 years. And finally, God says, that's enough. And he brought judgment because of the violence. And there were probably other things happening too. But the violence is what's emphasized and highlighted. So that's my assessment of it. I just think we've lost man as an image bearer of God, just like in the days of Noah. And I think if this continues, which obviously it will, it'll get worse. The judgment of God can't be far away.
Let's go to the issue of Kushner and Witkoff. New York Post reports that Kushner and Witkoff draft a $112 billion proposal to develop Gaza into a smart city with luxury resorts. 10-year development plan drafted by the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, of President Trump, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and two top White House aides. It's currently courting investor countries with a 32-slide PowerPoint presentation detailing the bold plan to renovate burning rubble into beach resorts. Gaza would see the development of luxury hotels, high-speed rail, and AI-optimized smart and grid features that would revitalize the small slice of the coveted Mediterranean coastline into a bustling metroplex, the Wall Street Journal reported. Dr. Woods, I don't have a problem with Israel doing this. What I have a problem with is that America's got its fingers in here and that we're putting together some kind of international police force. Again, I just go back to what you and I said earlier, I think in the week, that if you're going to bring division to Israel, divide their land, are we shocked that there's so much division in America? And I think, there is I think you're the one, along with Arnold Fruchtenbaum, that described how God actually does have just weights and measures. I was talking about that earlier, right? You want to drown my people? I'll drown your people, the Red Sea, right? You want to do this to my people? I'll do that to your people. In other words, God has a just measure, weights and measures, right? And I'm wondering if you want to divide Israel, we're going to divide America. Let's pick up on that theme.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely true. Let's take it into the 10th plague there in the book of Exodus. the death of the firstborn all over Egypt. I mean, why did God do that? Well, he did it because it's right there in Exodus 4, verse 22. They took his firstborn son, the nation of Israel, and put it into captivity. And now God says, I'm going after your firstborn son, all over Egypt. And that the events of Passover, of course, come from that, as the Israelis put the blood of the Passover lamb on their doorposts. God in judgment passed over those houses where he saw the blood. And it's a picture, of course, of what Christ did for us. But that whole judgment is not just some kind of random thing. I mean, it happened because they were going after his firstborn. And the same with the drowning. You just mentioned it. I mean, God could have destroyed the Egyptian army any way he wanted. He could have used a tsunami, a hurricane, an earthquake, a volcanic eruption, but he didn't do that. He chose a drowning in the Red Sea. Now, why is that? Because if you go to the end of Exodus 1, I want to say it's around verse 22, right in there, they were drowning the Israeli, infant males. And so God says, you drown me, my people, I'm going to drown you. If this is all an outworking of something that God said would happen in Genesis 12, verse 3. I don't see any statute of limitations on this. People tell me all the time, well, that's Old Testament and that doesn't apply anymore. Well, where? I mean, does the rainbow, God made a covenant with Noah based on the rainbow. Does that not apply anymore either? So there are some principles in the Old Testament that never got eclipsed or removed at all by any New Testament revelation. And Genesis 12, verse 3 is one of them. And Witkoff and Kushner, I mean, they're dividing God's land, the very thing that the prophet Joel says is going to bring judgment on the Gentile nations in the end times. Joel chapter 3, verse 2. It doesn't say it's okay for a Republican administration to do it. It just says don't do it. And I agree with you. I'm wondering if some of the division that we're seeing in America, some people have told me that America is more divided right now than at any time other than the Civil War itself. And I wonder if some of this division that we're seeing is not the outworking of these insane two-state solution policies that we're promoting.
Yeah, indeed. And it's interesting that they're going to use the whole digital thing there in Gaza, making a smart city. I hate to say it, but this is exactly what many of us said before President Trump was elected. Are the globalists going to let him get in so he can introduce and sell to us what people would never accept from a Kamala Harris? And it seems like, they're rolling this thing in, whether it's Gaza, whether it's mainstreaming Islam, making it where, hey, we're friends with Qatar. Of course, I know we got some executive orders to look into Muslim Brotherhood, but is that just a couple chapters? Or are we really going to look into the organization? Then you add in the fact that we're headed to not only 5G, but 6G. 6G is coming next. And the Trump administration seems to be the ones that are going to be pushing the 6G. Now, I'm all for technology. I'm not anti-technology. We use it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I am concerned about what 5G, 6G, what these cell towers can do. And we've sure talked to a lot of doctors, right? People that are MDs and functional medicine doctors that have done research on this. And why do we need such powerful cell towers? And it seems to be so you can set up these grids and that you can use AI and driverless cars and all the technology that would set up this dystopian, brave new world. But again, at what health expense? I don't think we fully know. What we do know is troubling in of itself. But it does seem as though we're headed toward a system that's being put into place with data centers and everything else. I'm not opposed to AI, by the way, just to be clear. Artificial intelligence is a name that is kind of misleading. It's not artificial. It's programming written by men. It's not intelligent. It's programming. And we've had computer systems easily from the late 60s, but certainly I know in the 70s that with these huge mainframes, I walked into the basement of the Department of Agriculture when I was a kid with my father, who worked for the USDA. And in this basement was floor to ceiling mainframes, huge mainframes. You probably remember them. You've probably seen pictures of them running with all of these circular things on them and whatnot. And it was a basement full of these things. And you could load data and have it analyze data. Now, you can call it artificial intelligence or whatever you want, but people need to understand there's nothing wrong with powerful software programs that analyze data, look at data. And in fact, when you use a search engine, this is what you're doing. You've been using a search engine for years that's doing this. So we need to not sound, uneducated or not informed. We need to be educated. We need to speak properly so as not to be lessening our credibility. So have we had artificial type intelligence, as they call it? Yes. Can it be used for good? Yes. Can it be used for evil like everything else? Yes. It's how you use it. Well, with that being said, if you set up these large centers and these data centers and this 5G, now 6G, and your goal is to monitor everybody, monitor their cars, monitor their cell phones, scan every license plate that comes into town, which again, you could say, well, now we're able to detect who the criminals are. What's a stolen car? I get it. But there's got to be a line where people have the right to move about without being surveilled nonstop, particularly if you're going to start then turning that to social credit scores and shutting people down. No, you cannot travel. Your car won't turn on. Your car will not operate past this. Your wallet, digital wallet, won't work outside these parameters. So yeah, they can pitch all the convenience and safety to us, but I know biblically speaking where it's going. You want to get started before the music starts for the break?
Well, I'm not against artificial intelligence per se. I mean, I've got my own Ask Andy AI device that people can use if they want on our app and website, andywoodsministries.org. But you just type in a Bible question and it spits out. It does a quick search of my sermons. So it's a closed system.
So it's not a demon that's answering them.
Well, it doesn't go look at Joel Osteen's sermons or
exactly.
something.
Exactly.
Looks at my sermons. And then it gives a very readable paragraph, and it gives you follow-up questions, and it tells you the exact spot in the sermon to go to listen to that subject.
Yeah, let's pick it up right there. Pick it up right there on the other side with Dr. Andy Woods, and we're going to mix in your calls here in just a minute. Don't go away.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed. Dr. Woods, andywoodsministries.org, us, worldviewtube.com. All right, Dr. Woods, pick it up right there. So you agree that we can use this for good, but yet at the same time, the massive growth of this is such that it seems to be setting up not only a digital city, a smart city for Gaza. I think that's the testing ground for doing this all over the world.
Yeah. And back to the AI, Ask Andy AI, we're answering 1,500 questions every day.
Wow.
Which is a workload. There's no way I could keep up with that.
No.
I couldn't hire a staff big enough to keep up with it. And so what AI is able to do here is amazing. However, we know that one of these days, all of this technology is going to fall into the wrong person's hands. And he, Antichrist, is going to use it as a tool for one world surveillance. That's my reading of the Mark of the Beast passage, Revelation 13, verses 16 through 18. So I want to know, where are the guardrails on all this stuff? I mean, even in the Ask Andy AI device, I've got to put in guardrails because it can give answers that, and it only does this 1% of the time, we've discovered, that aren't accurate to what I believe. So we've had to, you can apparently put guardrails on it where it's controlled. So if you can control AI, I want to know from the Trump administration, where are the guardrails? Where's the consumer's Bill of Rights? Where is the privacy protections? Where are the protections in place that this stuff is not going to go off the rails? Because there's a number of progenitors of this who have said, you know what, if we don't shut all this stuff down, it's going to enslave us pretty quick. And so I know there's an inherent danger associated with it. Biblically, we know that's coming. It's called the Mark of the Beast system. So when it's just kind of carte blanche, roll it out, let's get all these billionaire buddies into the White House and, have a great meal together and take some photo ops. And I look at the picture and I see, Altman and Gates and Trump and all of them just yucking it up. I'm wondering, is anybody talking about guardrails and privacy protections and a citizen's Bill of Rights is what I'm interested in. So that's kind of how I look at all this AI stuff.
Very well said. Can we find the clip, guys, where Erica Kirk tells everybody that Nicki Minaj loves the Lord? Can we find that, guys? I saw it today. I am, yeah, you're shaking your head. No. Look, I pray that Nicki Minaj comes to know the Lord. I don't know that she has. I see no fruit of that. I didn't know much about her. I couldn't tell you one of her songs. I couldn't tell you anything about her music other than I know that she's this, singer that is very crude. But I actually went and looked up the lyrics to some of her songs. I don't know if you've done that, Dr. Woods. I don't recommend people do it, but I can tell you it is vile. I mean, vile. Now, if this woman, as I said yesterday, has made a change in her life, become a believer, then let's give her time to mature in the faith and show some change, and she can denounce all of this stuff that's all over the internet. But just because she's going to church doesn't mean anything. And Erica Kirk sat there and said, well, I know her heart. She loves the Lord. I am so, and you look at the people online that are justifying this and implying that those of us who are saying, wait a minute, this is very confusing to people. We have to see fruit before we put someone on the platform and start saying they love the Lord and letting them have a place of respect to be followed. The more I look at what's happening with Turning Point USA, I said it was going to turn into apostasy. I said that. It'll be turning point into apostasy USA, in my opinion. I said that a few months ago. It's happening. They had some big Eucharist thing, according to a news report, CatholicVote.org, I think it was, we talked about last night. And now this. And the number of so-called Christians on social media defending this and attacking the Christians that are simply saying, wait a minute, we have to be very careful before we start saying that they love the Lord, that they're someone that, we should be praising and inviting in and giving a platform to. Now, I know that this is supposed to be a political event. They can do what they want. But if you got Turning Point Faith, which I think they do, and you want to talk about people, finding a good Bible teaching church and the things they've said that I agree with, but then you march this lady out, we got a problem. We got a discernment problem at best. That's at best. Yet the number of so-called Christians that are on social media defending this, I thought, you know what? There will be people, lots of people that will be on social media defending the Antichrist when he shows up. Can you imagine what the Antichrist is going to be saying and doing? And people will be online claiming to be believers defending the Antichrist. Do you agree with my assessment that this shows that we have a real problem in so-called, quote, Christianity today?
Yeah, and let me just respond real fast to this idea that oh, they love the Lord, let's platform them. Okay, that's never the criteria or criterion for platforming people. I mean, when Paul talks about elders and deacons, he doesn't say, hey, do they love the Lord? What he says is, what is their character like in terms of their doctrine and in terms of their lifestyle? You know, husband of one wife, not quick to anger, you know the list, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when someone just like throws someone out on a stage in the name of Christianity, this must be in the name of the Christianity because the name of the Lord comes up. And you say, well, they love the Lord. I mean, when they say stuff like that, they're demonstrating a complete lack of understanding of how leaders are to be promoted within the church, or quite frankly, within any Christian event. I mean, what does Paul say? Do not put a novice into a position of authority, lest he fall into the condemnation of Satan, which was what we know from the Old Testament, Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, etc., that he was lifted up with pride and he fell. Bible's very clear. First comes a pride, then comes a fall. And so this is why you don't put novices into some kind of position of influence in the name of Christ, because inevitably it's going to go to their head and they're going to fall from their leadership position because their character, has not been borne out. Paul says to Timothy, do not lay hands too quickly. And so these are verses I'm always thinking about when people just throw some no name up there with a bunch of weird stuff in their background, under the guise of, well, they love the Lord. Well, maybe they do, and let's just say this person we're talking about is an authentic born again believer. They haven't had any time for maturity. They haven't had any time for growth. And you put them into a position of influence or leadership that quick, that fast, and you're going directly against God's word, and you're just asking for trouble.
You're asking for trouble. So true. Here's the clip.
Yes, we did. I love you. I love you. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back. And this is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord, and words are words.
Oh, wow. And words are words. Well, have you heard the words, Erica, of her music? Have you read them? Would you raise your children on the lyrics of Nicki Minaj? I don't think so. And again, I've not seen or heard that Nicki has come out and denounced my past lifestyle. And I want you guys to know I've repented of all that. That was my past. As the Apostle Paul says, as such were some of you. That was me then. I'm a new creation in Christ. I'm denouncing all of that. If you have my albums, throw them away, burn them, delete them off your iPod. Folks, no, that's my old life. Have you heard it? Has anyone heard that happen? Guys in the control room? Logan? Dr. Woods, have any of you heard her say that?
Well, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I don't follow this person.
I haven't, no. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I'm very concerned about where we're headed, and we may find out that the Republican, quote, Republican establishment is just as dangerous spiritually as the Democrat establishment.
Well, with names like Paula White, I mean, of course that's the case. Being the president's spiritual advisor. I mean, Paula White, she needs a spiritual advisor. She doesn't need to be advising anybody. And, I don't know. I've never been, I've always liked Charlie Kirk sort of from a distance, his debating skills. I'm very sorrowful about his assassination, prayed daily for his widow, his family. But the truth of the matter is I'm kind of a distant observer of Turning Point. Not a guy that's on the ground floor or involved with the organization at all. I see just weird stuff. I mean, I think I saw Steve Bannon on there recently, just saying some of the most, even for him, which is a real, accomplishment, some of the most irresponsible things about the Jews and about Israel, and these bizarre ideas that Israel is some kind of expansionistic power. And then all of a sudden, Tucker Carlson is on there, creating straw men and saying the same kinds of things. And the speakers are all trashing each other. Ben Shapiro, who to me made the most sense, speaks, and everybody kind of dogpiles on him, and he dogpiles on Candace Owens. And what kind of conference is this? I mean, I'm putting together a conference. We're having a conference here in February. I'm not going to create a scenario where everybody's trashing each other and you have all of these discordant voices. I mean, typically you find a conference theme, and then you find people that you think are the best at promoting, that particular theme, all from their different angle of expertise. I mean, I would never create a situation where they're all the speakers are, attacking each other. So, I mean, this whole thing is just, it's just almost like a freak show as I'm watching it from a distance.
Yeah, you and I haven't talked about this off the air, but boy, we sure are in sync with each other. We are really in sync. All right, let's open the phone lines. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions, any of your Bible prophecy, Middle East questions, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. I want to ask you real quick before the music starts, what do you make? About half of Americans now think aliens have visited the earth. Do you think this is setting the stage for major deception, spiritual deception?
Absolutely. Luke 21 is at verse 11, as one of the signs of the end, talks about strange events in the sky. So, as you said before, I totally agree with what you said. We don't believe in aliens, some kind of higher evolved race living on another planet somewhere, speaking back into our world to get us to evolve accordingly. Satan masquerades as an angel of light. And these spirits or manifestations that people are seeing, they're actually demons, usually given to people of influence to prepare humanity for the globalism that's coming and now here.
Well said. AndyWoodsMinistries.org is his website. And we'll take your calls, 1-800-347-9829. Questions, comments, 1-800-347-9829. Do stay tuned for Crosstalk at 2 o'clock with Jim Schneider on 100 outlets nationwide. We'll be right back.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, let's go right to the calls. Let's go to line 1 is Joy calling in from the state of Georgia. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Brandon. I just want to let you guys know you're doing a wonderful job, and I am not into politics, but I'll tell you, listening to your podcast, people better open their eyes and see what's going on, because you cannot trust these politicians, your local officials, or any of them anymore. And we definitely need people like you to keep putting the word out there to let them know what the hell, and pardon my French, is going down.
Well, yeah, we'll dump that part. But hey, tell me this. Did you just, the call screener said you just found out about us. Is that right?
Well, my mother listens to you, and I just started listening to you, and I really am enjoying your podcast.
Well, thank you. And thank your mother. And thank you, Joy, for calling in today. And you know what, folks? Again, that's a perfect example. The number of people that are finding us through family members and friends. So thank you to all of you. We're introducing a lot of people, Dr. Woods, to a lot of new things. And that's the one thing we're not going to do as we become more and more available to people and our numbers grow. We're not going to stop being a biblical worldview organization, but we sure are excited to have the opportunity to speak about things that many people have never heard for the first time. Are you finding that same thing, Dr. Woods?
Well, it's people out there, they want a explanation of what's going on. You know, they don't want the usual Republican or Democrat talking points. You know, they don't want Fox News. I mean, maybe they do at a surface level. You know, they don't want Newsmax. They don't want OANN. They want something that's biblical. And your show deals with the Bible. I mean, it is unafraid of the Bible, from the distant past to what it reveals about the future. And I think only a show, a podcast that comes from that angle can adequately analyze the events that are happening to the level that the soul, you know, is satiated. And so that's why I'm a fan of your show. I always appreciate being brought on, but that's what I'm trying to do in my ministry. We're not just trying to give the stupid talking points that everybody hears regurgitated.
So
we're trying to give a biblical truth, for crying out loud.
It's so shallow. It is so shallow. What's out there and what people are lapping up. You know, Joy's just saying, I'm not a political person, but people better wake up. Karen in New Jersey, thank you, line 4. Karen, for calling in. Karen?
Yes, I saw a video on YouTube of Nicki Minaj receiving an award, a music award, and she thanked Lucifer, and she mocked Jesus. She said, you know, it wasn't Jesus who got me here. No. It wasn't Jesus. And that's what she said. Anybody can go on YouTube and look that up.
Wow.
She ain't no Christian. They're a bunch of liars. And they're put in that position for a purpose in the end. They're part of the New World Order, and they're in every sector of society.
I thank you for calling in. I did not know that. Obviously, I'm not spending a lot of time looking at YouTube videos of Nicki Minaj, but I'm glad to know that. And again, have someone else warning. So I don't want people to think, oh, he's legalistic. He's just, holier than thou. You know, he thinks he's above everybody. No, we all have feet of clay. All have sinned and fallen short. None of us are perfect. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said yesterday. One of the greatest things that we, and I know Dr. Woods, and I know VCY America and WROS and everyone else that works with us feels, is that we don't want to, while we're not perfect, we want to make sure that what we present is as perfect as we can, because we're presenting the perfect truth through God's word. While we're not perfect, we're wanting to present as much as we can, the best as we can, that which is perfect through the Bible. And when you platform someone like they just did, the confusion, it just makes me so concerned for America's young people. And where is that woman, Erica's discernment? Can I just say it? Why are you not at home with your children? Okay? How long has your husband been dead? 3 months? Why are you not at home with your children? There's not a conservative, godly man that can lead that organization? Frankly, the fact that Erica Kirk is leading this organization, and I don't care if people like it or don't like it, the fact that, in my opinion, theologically, that Erica Kirk is running this organization is a perfect sign that God's judging America. That they have this woman, that we can't find a godly man that can exegete the word of God and teach how to apply Christian worldview to politics. The fact that it gets turned over to her, I think, is more proof God's judging America. Your thoughts, Dr. Woods? Or maybe you want to separate yourself from that.
Well, I mean, it's a tough issue because obviously your heart breaks for her, but at the same time, you know, what you're saying is correct. I guess I'm just not close enough to them. I know people that know them, but I'm not in their inner circle. I'm just kind of an observer from the outside. And I just scratch my head at the whole thing.
But is it not true that God, when God starts to give over nations to women to lead the nations, that's not because we're anti-woman. It's because God has a pattern, and that generally when nations start being turned over to women to lead, that is a little bit of a problem and maybe a sign of God's judgment. True or false?
No, it's true because it's in Isaiah 3, and I want to say Isaiah 8. There's 2 times in the book of Isaiah where God says to the nation, because you've gone down this road, and this is almost a verbatim quote as memory serves, I'm going to put women and children over you. And there are no females running the nation of Israel except one. Her name is Jezebel, Athaliah, and she was a usurper. Jezebel, of course, had influence over Ahab, but she was not, she was kind of an informal leader, I guess, of Israel, influencing negatively her husband. But this whole idea of women leadership is a product of what we would call divine abandonment, divine discipline. And you look at the Christian world today, look at how it's filled with women preachers, teachers, and I hate to say it, but so many of them, not that a man can't move into deception, but so many of them are teaching weird stuff.
And it's not because we're against women. There are some wonderful women that are very good Bible teachers. There are some women that are better at teaching the Bible than some men, but it's about who you're teaching, where you're teaching, when you're teaching it, in God's order.
God has a hierarchy.
That's exactly right.
God has a hierarchy, and he's told the genders to play different roles in the hierarchy.
Stay right there, Dr. Woods. Thank you, guys. Take care. Let's come back in. Dr. Woods, pick it up right there. There's a hierarchy. Pick it up there.
Well, is there a hierarchy? Of course. I can't have a baby. I can provide the sperm for the pregnancy, but I'm not going to get pregnant unless I go through one of those weird, I guess, transgender
I still don't think you
surgeries.
I don't think you get pregnant even then.
Well, I hope not, because God has a hierarchy. So, we're not anti-woman. It's just like men and women are called to play different roles. My wife is so fulfilled in the role that she has as my helper. She tells me every day how happy she is. And many times I'll try to push her in a direction maybe that's just not right, more into a leadership position, and she gets unhappy, very, very quickly. And that's where I know I've stepped outside of, proper boundaries and proper borders. And, look at these feminists. They're such angry people. It's like they drink motor oil for breakfast or something. They just spit out bitterness constantly. They're constantly frothing at the mouth, foaming at the mouth, to the point where they come on these cable shows and it's not even a conversation. It's just a screaming match. And I'm wondering if so much of this venom and anger that's built up inside of them relates to the fact that they are forcing themselves to be in some kind of role that they were never designed for. It's like using a hammer, and you want to use it as a screwdriver. Well, it's not going to work because the hammer was designed to be a hammer, and the screwdriver was designed to be a screwdriver. And a woman is designed to fulfill certain roles in God, and a man is designed to fulfill certain roles in God. And if you lose your relationship to the Lord, you have no concept as to how these different gender roles function within the church, within the family, within leadership. So does women in positions of influence, like CEOs, leaders of ministry, everybody's talking about when are we going to have the first woman president of the United States? Are these things a sign of divine abandonment? Of course they are. It's Romans 1, you suppress the truth, and then the basic roles that God has set up get confused, right down to heterosexuality versus homosexuality, right down to children being in rebellion against parents, right down to women, wanting to grab the reins of authority in the house, in the church, in the business world, etc. So yeah, it's a sign of divine abandonment.
Logan. you believe we went there? He says, no. You know what? The bulk of my audience are women. One of my largest demographics for years have been women 50 to 65 years old, 50 to 65. And I will watch what's coming in, and I guarantee you a lot of the women in our audience will agree with what we have just said. My wife will. I bet your wife will, because they know the truth. And that's not because we're anti-woman. It's because we understand God's plan and order for things, both for their protection, but also for ours.
Yeah.
And isn't one of the consequences of the fall we see right away in Genesis 3 is that a woman will desire to rule over her husband, right? That's the consequence of the sin of the fall, that constant struggle and tension that's there, right?
Well, that verse, that's in like Genesis 3 around verse 19, right in there. That mirrors biblically the next chapter, semantically. When you study those two verses in Hebrew, they're almost identical with Genesis 4, verse 7, which is Cain contemplating murder of Abel. And he's warned, sin is crouching at your door. If you don't get control of it, the desire for murder, it is going to control you. So when that same language is used in Genesis 3, what the curse is this: the woman is going to try to grab the reins of authority within the home, within the church, within the business world. And that's the beginning of feminism. The man will resent that, and his natural tendency will be to trample down the woman. And that's the beginning of chauvinism. And so the consequence of the fall is an inbuilt hostility within every single marriage. And the only way out is to marry somebody where the two of you are committed to walking out Ephesians 5, where the man is to love his wife as Christ loved the church. That's the answer for chauvinism. And the woman is to respect and submit to the authority of her husband. That's the answer for feminism. I could solve almost every marital problem just by having that teaching, instilled in people.
Yep. Which is another reason why we don't want our daughters drafted, because we understand about the roles of men and women and to protect them because of their valuable position and things they can do and are called to do that we cannot do, including our goal and calling to protect them, the weaker vessel. Well, the emails are already coming in. Heather says, thank you for speaking the truth on the roles of men and women. I 100% agree with you and Andy Woods. I know we're going to get lots of this. All right. Thanks for listening. AndyWoodsMinistries.org, us, worldviewtube.com. Take care.
You're watching Worldview Tube.
Build education, work, responsibility.